Okay, we're good? Okay. I'd like to call the Pelham Board of Education of September 14th, 2021 to order. Would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Sue, could we please have a reiteration of the executive session motions?
Yes, the board met in executive session to discuss the record of a particular student.
Thank you. Welcome. We had a great first few days of school, and it's definitely wonderful to see our students flowing in and out of our schools and our community back into its usual rhythm. While it's bittersweet to see the summer fade, this time of year gives everyone a fresh start. It's also a time to exercise patience with our students, our teachers, and ourselves as we get used to new routines and new faces after some time away. Tonight, Dr. Champ will share her report on the opening of schools and district facilities. Speaking of our buildings, the board fulfilled its legal duty to tour our buildings and facilities ahead of the opening of school. It is evident that the administrators, teachers, and custodial staff take great pride in each of their school buildings, and that many have been hard at work over the past several months. Having toured our buildings, we are assured by the readiness of our facilities for our students. A highlight of this tour was, of course, the opportunity to see the new Hutchinson School. It was a privilege to get the chance to speak at the ribbon-cutting ceremony last Thursday. The decision to build a new school was not an easy one for the board to make a few years ago, but we did so with the future in mind. This amazing new state-of-the-art school will not only be a place where all elementary students can join together, but it will also serve as a community hub for our entire community to use and enjoy. Over the past 2 years, as we've endured some of the darkest days, this project provided a beacon of hope and progress and a compass reminding us of our purpose and direction. Despite all of the hardships the pandemic created for our school community, this school opened last week on time and ahead of budget. This is a true testament to the vision and hard work of so many people. I hope that community members who weren't able to join us for the ribbon cutting last week will have the chance to see our new school soon. We are also looking forward to the chance to return to in-person engagement opportunities with the community. Our first Board of Education coffee is set for Thursday, September 30th at J Cafe at 9 a.m. I hope you will be able to join us. At our last board meeting, we adopted this year's board and district committees. We want to thank everyone who served on our committees last year, and we hope that those who are interested in serving this year will consider applying. Stay tuned for more information about the committee application and process in the next couple of weeks. One final note, today, Pauline Davies, our district clerk, Dr. Champ, and I had the opportunity to attend a webinar about suggested communication protocols for public board meetings. While I'm still digesting the new information I learned, I was heartened to know that our current practices align with legal requirements and best practices. I will look forward to incorporating some of the suggestions I heard into our future meetings. And now I will turn to Section 3, which is approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular business meeting of August 25th, 2021?
So moved.
Thanks, Benny. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Sue. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Section 4 are the administrative and committee reports. 4.1 is the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. And welcome back. Very excited to have everybody back and happy to have completed day 4 of school with everybody back, which is just has been a true difference between last year and this year, night and day. And it was great to tour the buildings over the first couple days, see the students all back, excited, and to see our staff back excited doing what they do best, and that's being with the students in the classroom. So we're really thrilled and know that it's going to be a better school year this year. Even though it's not 100%, we're all still wearing our masks and having to do some of the necessary protocols. We already know it's going to be a better year. I have to apologize in advance. I got a lot to go include in my report tonight, but that's a good thing. So since we last met, we had our superintendent's conference days back on September 1st and 2nd. So thank you to Jessica for coming to speak and address the staff. We had also Anne Marie Garcia from PTA Council, Julia Fuller from the PEF, and Mark Finnegan on behalf of the Pelham Teachers Association recognize and welcome all of our staff back, which always makes for a great united front as we welcome and share our appreciation. Thanks to the PTA Council for an awesome breakfast as well that is very much appreciated by the staff. They know how much it means to be recognized by our parents. We also, as part of the opening ceremonies, got to recognize our 25-year honorees, employees who've been in the district for 25 years. I'm always amazed at the number of people that we have each year, people who come to Pelham and commit their careers to Pelham. So this year we had the honor of recognizing Anna Brown from the high school, Mark Finnegan, who's between high school and middle school, Dexter Jackson. We actually missed him on the opening day, so we'll be recognizing him at the faculty meeting tomorrow at the middle school. Kathy Lieggi from the middle school, Miriam Lovett from the business office, who is actually retiring next month after her 25-year milestone, Joanne Regusta from Hutchinson, and Annie Salamini at the middle school. So just really appreciative for all these staff members and all that they have contributed to our schools. On our second day of what was supposed to be Superintendent's Conference Days, as you know, we had a storm. Hurricane Ida, Mother Nature had very different ideas. So I just want to again thank our custodial staff for taking care of our facilities and addressing any water intrusion. We didn't have a ton in what was there. They addressed immediately, so incredible as always. Thanks to our staff for adjusting so quickly in the midst of such a difficult time and for their commitment. Even though we wound up closing school, about half of our staff actually persevered and came in for the day, recognizing certainly their commitment to being ready for the opening of school and knowing that was one of the last days that they had to prepare. So really kudos to them. Thanks also for administrators who, as a result of losing that crucial professional development day, have now had to scramble and to make sure that everybody is ready for the opening of school with curriculum alignment, professional development, resources, training. Have had to adjust, and they've done a phenomenal job of doing that so that our teachers have what they need, and those important conversations and resources are communicated as we get up and running for the school year. And certainly want to thank our families, especially want to recognize those who were impacted by the storm. We recognized the way that this hit. It seemed like literally on one block, one person's home was fine and the next home was flooded. And there was no rhyme and reason to it. So we know that there are many families struggling with that. And I would just encourage families, if they haven't already done so, please make sure that either your principal, the school psychologist, social worker, counselor, somebody at your school is aware of your child's needs, because we want to make sure to connect them with resources so that no child goes without the supplies they need or anything else that they may need inside of or out of school. And I know the civics mobilized right away, Pelham Together, Junior League, all in coordination. I was in communication with them as well as the mayors. So it was just a great opportunity to see Pelham doing what Pelham does best, and that's coming together in times of crisis. Tonight, we know this is our facilities update evening, so I'm going to be passing the mic to Jim and John for that later in the meeting. They really do a tremendous job. Their staff did, we always brag about their great work every year, but this year I think had to top all of them, because on top of preparing for the normal needs of a school year, we had double the size of summer learning programs. We had 4 capital projects at 4 different buildings, one of them being a brand new school. Plus work at Glover. And it was, I can't even tell you the miracles that they worked, especially in the last week or two. So Jim and John are going to highlight that. So I thank them for their leadership. Thanks to the team who really wore themselves out this summer, did a phenomenal job. We even had student workers on the team this year that did tremendous. I think they probably single-handedly moved most of the furniture from out of Hutchinson and a lot of the boxes into either storage or the new school, so thanks to them. And also thanks to the technology team under John Sabalos' leadership, who, again, same thing, all these capital projects were connected to technology in some way, shape, or form, as well as the normal upgrades and continuing strengthening that John is doing of our entire system, all to support instruction. So you'll hear about that tonight. Some of the other things that happened before the start of school that I just wanted to mention too. I know we had talked in the spring about needing to look at transition supports, and I know Julia is probably going to be going more into this in our upcoming work session. But just wanted to touch on a couple things that our middle school and high school did to prepare, especially thinking of those transition times. So COVID certainly impacts our planning. So I know we're all familiar with the good old lox and bagels that the middle school generally holds. This year they shifted it to a scavenger hunt so that they could handle the logistics of things differently. So on August 30th, they did that and had students going all around the building, acquainting themselves with the facility, which was a lot of fun. They also held a new family orientation on August 31st. And then when the students came in, we did a staggered start to the school year as we usually do so that they could orient each of the grade levels specifically. And then they conducted special activities for each grade level. I'll be sharing, actually the board has a nice packet that Ms. Sabia prepared for you just to give you a sample of the materials that were provided to students and family. So really great attention to each specific grade level because each grade level is unique, and they were excited to bring them in. And then at the secondary level, at the high school level, on August 27th, they held an incoming 9th grade orientation, which took place with special programming for the students and a separate meeting for parents and families. Very excited to have been able to do that in person. The student orientation was coordinated by our social worker, Kristen Quintano, and bridge coordinator, Jeanette Conley, as well as 9th grade counselor, Terrence Huvain, and our assistant principal, Beth Antonelli. An amazing group of 11th and 12th graders served as peer leaders to welcome and support the 9th graders. Students began their day in the auditorium with introductions and words of welcome by the adults, and then the building administrators were able to greet the students in the auditorium as well before they were split into small groups and led by peer leaders throughout tours of the building. So a great welcome, and nice having that older student mentorship leader opportunity. On the 31st, the counseling department hosted a 10th grade back to school welcome and meet your counselor activity. We knew this year because last year's 9th graders didn't get the same type of orientation. We wanted to pay special attention to the 10th grade. So the counselors put together a great program for them. And so that was introductions to the counselors, which was really important because, as the board knows, 9th grade, Mr. Huvain is the counselor for all 9th graders. So 10th grade is the opportunity where they meet that counselor who's going to see them through the college process and everything that's going to come for those remaining years. So that was a great opportunity to make those connections. And especially the day was ended with the Pelham ice cream truck, which always makes for a great event. And then on Thursday, similar to the middle school, they held, on the first day, assemblies were held with the building administrators. With each of the grade levels, it was an opportunity to provide a warm welcome back, introduce their year-long vision for the school, renewing, connecting, celebrating, and articulation of the norms and expectations and standards of excellence for all students to ensure that they're aware of the behavioral expectations, code of conduct, and academic expectations for the year. Coming up at the high school, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more about this as it comes over the next days. On October 13th, we will be having our traditional day where our 10th and 11th grade students take the PSAT. And while they are doing that, because we need so much of the facility, the 12th graders will be working with their college counselor, or with their counselors on college-related matters. So some special activities planned for our seniors related to college. And our 9th graders, and the board will see this on the agenda tonight, they have planned a community building bonding activity with the 9th graders down at Glover. An outside organization is going to come and do a lot of team building, fun games. It certainly will not replace the Olympics, but it's a great way to start off the year and helping the students really to orient and bond, which is so important after the last year and a half that we've had. So really excited about those opportunities that are happening there. At the elementary levels, Just wanted to point out from an enrollment perspective that we are running at 100% capacity, as we said, with all of our protocols in place. We are running with 63 sections across the elementary schools. So we're up and running and excited to be doing that. And again, the teachers, just to walk into the classrooms and see them no longer tethered to that camera was just heartwarming. They really were back in their element and very excited. And I know all of our elementaries also held a variety of activities. Just I would remind everybody, keep frequently check in on the detail calendar that's on the website. That's if you go to the calendar tab, you've got choices of single page or detail. And Alex Wolf does a great job of keeping that up to date. So please watch that for activities. There's always something going on at the school. Speaking of activities, of course, we had, as Jessica mentioned, the ribbon cutting on September 9th. I definitely want to thank everyone, the board who was able to be there, all the former board members who came, our elected officials who came. We got some greetings and welcome from Assemblywoman Paulin, Senator Biaggi, and County Executive Latimer, which was great to have them there, and I know each of them has been supportive of this project in different ways. I want to thank our Pelham Memorial High School students who volunteered to lead tours and to help guide people around the new building. That was a great community service opportunity, and I think they were pretty darn excited to get a preview of that building before everyone else did. So really appreciative that they were there to help on the day. Thanks again to KG&D and Triton, who have been our great partners through that, and will continue to be our partners as we complete a very long punch list. A lot more to go, but we're excited to be able to get the temporary certificate of occupancy so that we were able to open on time as planned. And thanks to the community who came out to support. We expected about 100 people. I'd guess there was probably at least 300 if I had to put a number on that. So it was an exciting day for all of us. Following that, of course, that was the 9th. 2 days beyond that brings us to September 11th. Very different tenor to that day. After the celebrations of the week, it was definitely somber, I think, for all of us to remember the 20-year anniversary of that date. As I sat, as I always do, and listened to the names being read each year, and watching the coverage of the day and going back and remembering it, it really stood out this year in particular, the focus on the unity that came after that. And I thought, again, what a great reminder that is for us as a school, as a community, to really come back to how do we lead the way in that with our students as examples, us as examples, as leaders, as school leaders, as a governance team, and really work to model that for our students and our community. So it was something I hope that folks had the opportunity to really to take time and reflect on. I'm incredibly thankful for the first responders that were there, and one of the things that really amazed me as I watched the coverage is how many children of first responders have now stepped into that role and have taken up the mantle. And I just really continue to be appreciative for those that are local, those that do it everywhere, but certainly our local first responders who work so closely with us, and just wanted to recognize and thank them for their work. We then turned the calendar to Monday, yesterday. Feels like it's been a week already in 2 days. Monday was the start of modified sports here. We did have, for turnout, we had signed up, and I say that, signed up different from who turned up, because although we had these numbers signed up, additional students did turn up. We had 38 students signed up for football, 44 for volleyball, 42 for boys soccer, 41 for girls soccer, 22 for boys and girls cross country. And we only had 9 signed up for field hockey. We did have a few more in each sport actually turn up, which is very typical. You may have seen the email from Mr. Hodge this afternoon that we're going to be combining that field hockey team. Instead of running modified, we're going to merge that with JV so that the students who were interested in that are able to play, and they have extended the registration for that as well in case there were students who missed out on the opportunity to sign up there. So we're really excited about the numbers of kids in sports. I know we have over 500. I'll get the final count from Mr. Hodge once we're fully up and running after this week. But a really great turnout for sports this year, so we're very appreciative of that and continuing to look for ways that we can improve on communication. 2 more items. we were really excited. I think Julia Chung was the most excited to bring on board a new COVID coordinator this week. Bridget Gates is actually a Pelham resident, a Pelham mom. Her youngest graduated last year. We're very fortunate in that she served as a contact tracer with the New York City Department of Health, so she knows the regulations, she knows the difficult conversations, she knows everything around this, so she's been a tremendous addition to the team. So again, we put an email out about that, I believe, today as well. So a reminder for folks, please, if your child is vaccinated, please email her a copy of that. The more we have on record, the more that's going to expedite our contact tracing. And folks who are vaccinated will not have to quarantine as long as they are asymptomatic. So it's very important that we have that information. We're also in the process of finalizing agreements with the testing company. And again, there's a resolution on tonight's meeting just authorizing me to enter into those contracts between the DOH and our testing partner, which is Mount Sinai. It'll be listed as C19 is the name of the company, the way it's the way that it's what they go by. The details of that contract are still being finalized now. So we do anticipate that coming in the next day or two so that we can get that testing. We'll get it reviewed by legal and get that testing up and running ASAP. We're hoping to put in place a baseline testing event mid next week. More information will be coming out about that with the specific information. And finally, just an update on a topic that came up last year because of a policy that we passed regarding gender-neutral bathrooms and certainly issues that have been brought to us by students. We certainly have put the signage around that needs to be there, certainly always looking to improve that as well as we continue to look at how our facilities are used and labeled. The students at the high school, as was raised last year, do have gender-neutral bathrooms that they can access in the guidance office, the nurse's office, and there is one in the annex between the middle school and high school that both middle school and high school students can access. Within the additional construction project that's planned for later this year in the suite that is currently shared by Dr. Garcia and myself, there are bathrooms there, one of which is going to be converted into a student gender-neutral bathroom. So I just want to make sure that folks knew that. We have 100-year-old buildings, which always makes bathrooms limited and challenging, but we certainly understand the ask from the students. It's a very important one, and we want to honor that. So I just want folks to know that that is in process, and we should see that before the end of this year.
And when we say student gender neutral, it's really just a private bathroom.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Yep. And that ends my report
Okay.
today. Thank you.
Jim, I don't know what you're going to say when it gets to you because she only left you with a couple items of very few, buses and
Trying to help
hockey.
you out.
Okay, so this brings us to Board of Education Committee reports. I don't believe we've had any. I know we'll have a policy one before our next meeting, but anything I missed? Okay. Next is Dr. Garcia, Assistant Superintendent's update on authentic learning.
Hi, good evening. Welcome back. So our first session with the new teachers happened actually on Monday, August 30th. We had a new teacher orientation and technology boot camp. The first half was technology boot camp. And then during that time, we had Leah Tabas welcome the new teachers. Dr. Champ spoke as welcome. And then John Sabalos and Lisa Del Mastro, who is our technology specialist, led the new people in a really learning session about our technology, our programs, our online systems, and that was all virtual. Then, because the weather was very nice, we're able to welcome all the new teachers back in the afternoon. And there was an overview that Dr. Champ gave about the strategic plan. There was a business office came to visit and talked to all the new people about the benefits and payroll and all the other good things that come with working here in the district. Jeanette Connolly, who is our mentor coordinator, also led a session talking to the new teachers about their mentors and the experience that they'll have in their first year in the district. And then also Mark Finnegan and the teachers union spoke to them about the benefits of being part of that organization. So it was a great, I think, introduction to them. It was the first time actually we had a new teacher session live in person since 2019, which, if you stop and think about it, that was a long time ago. And a lot has happened since. So we were lucky to have it outside under the tents that Jim was supplied for us a few years last year. It seems like 9 years ago. But it was nice to see people, to be honest with you. We haven't done that in such a long time. So I think it was a good building experience for them. I mentioned this at the last board meeting. We did complete our hiring for the year, which is wonderful. So I want to thank all the administrators and the teachers and everyone else who's involved with it. 29 new hires, or just hires for positions, some of returnees, right, since May when we started the process. And this summer, 21. We just completed the last two with Julia's leadership and over the past couple weeks. So we're happy. We have some great people working with us, and we're looking forward to seeing them in action this year. So that is the new teacher orientation. I think, again, it was a good experience for them, but it was also, like I said, refreshing for all the people who work here to kind of see all human beings again, because it's been such a impersonal experience for them. So we're very happy about that. In terms of professional learning this summer, we had a lot of work done by the teachers, led by our administrators, and I'm not going to get into the specifics of everything, but just a brief overview. So I asked our directors, Dr. Callahan, Mr. Sabalos, technology director, and also Maria Thompson, to talk about humanities and what type of work was done. So first in math and science, that when I asked them to kind of provide me with some updates, they're very thorough. So just cursory, just so we know. All the areas, the core areas, teachers came in willfully, happily, and wanted to work on rebuilding the curriculum when the kids are back in the classroom. Because, we had to adjust this past year. And we were no longer doing this hybrid experience. So we had to repace everything, and that's kind of the big theme. Readjusting or repacing our core curriculum. In mathematics K-5, they looked at the existing pacing guides to revise, the first 2 weeks, getting to know the students in that period. We're integrating some new screeners for our students at the elementary level, kind of evaluate their skills up front at the beginning of the school year. Again, pacing guide revisions at each grade level with some vertical alignment because the pandemic kind of changed our sequence. One thing that really never stopped was New York State coming out with new standards and new timelines and new frameworks. So of course, we have to make sure that the new next generation math standards were integrated, and we try to rearrange a few things in the different grade levels with our Math in Focus program. We had to make sure that the experiences parallel the expectations with these new standards. As Julia knows as well, with interventions and multi-tiered systems of support, MTSS, we're trying to make sure the protocols and the processes are in place, making sure that we're training our new interventionists that we have this year. We're doing that actually on Friday, making sure that they're up to speed with our literacy and math program, make sure they can actually articulate the assistance of the students of what they need this school year. There's also some grade-specific changes like graphing. Where's graphing happening? How do we integrate some more science into with math to make sure that there's considerable overlap? And also in Science 21, we're rolling that out in 4th grade this year. So we've already done K1, 2, 3, and then there'll be another change next school year with 5th grade. There's also new standards with the tests that come out in science. The 5th grade will transition to Science 21 in 2022 and 23, but there will be a new test that's really offered in spring 2024. Our current 3rd graders will get that new science test in 5th grade. So we're building up towards that change as well. Science and math in the secondary level, we had summer curriculum writing with the new standards in science, reviewing our labs, because remember, we didn't really have those application of labs last school year, so that was kind of readjusting for this school year. We did some work on culminating AP projects and science courses. We also are trying to make sure that our math curriculum has more advanced topics covered in Math 7, so we can prepare our students who may have, make sure they have good access to the algebra in 8th grade, if they so choose. Whenever you do that, you want to make sure that you have to adjust what's happening in 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. So that's part of the work that we're doing. You know that we have always some work with new teachers when they come in, so we want to make sure that our new teachers are trained well and understand the curriculum. We're doing some work with that, and also again just pacing and revisions. Humanities, Dr. Thompson's been working with our teachers over the summer to make sure that our pacing of the curriculum this year is readjusted back to what it should be in literacy. We also want to make sure that we're clearly articulating our Tier 1 interventions this year in writing and reading. The teachers are working this summer to come up with an online literacy hub, which I'll share with the board actually for the next update. And it's just a resource for the teachers that they can go to. And they were doing that work this summer. At the secondary level in social studies, our continued work with facing history and ourselves. Teachers were again trained. They went to a few seminars, and they're looking at how they're adjusting their curriculum areas as well. ELA 612. There's several interdisciplinary projects that were revised this summer. The English in 9th grade, they look at traditionally Greek mythology is their theme. They're looking also mythologies in other cultures around the world to integrate that. They're looking at creating a social studies ELA interdisciplinary unit to explore the American Revolution through more primary sources, firsthand accounts of different people. And also there's creation of this new English course that's proposed called, the theme is under dilemmas and coming of age choices. So those are things we've been working on over the summer. In preparation with technology, we do have new standards coming out in technology, and John Sabalos and Alicia Del Mastro did some work this summer to kind of front load that preparation work as we kind of adjust to that. In October, we're going to really begin doing that work. So a lot said there. My throat's already dry because we have these masks on. So hopefully that gave you a good overview. Again, I'll give the board some more detail about those hubs that we're giving the teachers, especially in math and also in ELA at the elementary school.
Steve, can you speak to where the pacing, did you say guidelines are or recommendations are coming from?
For which one? I'm sorry.
The pacing, did you say their recommendations or
Well,
guidelines?
they're pretty much like the state. The state always has
internally developed.
Yeah, and they're more internally developed because again, we had to adjust that spring of 2020 session, right, when we hit the pandemic and everyone kind of went indoors, and we were doing things differently at that time. And some people may remember, whereby by grade level, we want to make sure there's consistency of experiences across the grade levels, like 3rd grade in any school. So teachers were working together. So again, we had to break down what we're doing and what can actually be taught virtually, right? And then last year was just adjusting it because of the fact that we're in this hybrid world where some kids are in front of you and some kids aren't. And we had to, make some choices in terms of how far deep we can go into certain subjects and which ones were the essential that we had to make. And that was challenging. I think also, to be honest, and I think it's pretty well documented, that I think science and social studies took a hit last year at the elementary level because it was this fear that we weren't able to really make sure the kids were getting the math and the literacy work that they were kind of missing out on in person. So we needed to go back to it, right? And science and social studies were not the two subject areas you would want to kind of jump over last year when there was everything we're dealing with, whether it was the election, whether it was COVID, science and social studies. So those are just two areas we need to kind of make sure we reintegrate this year. But a lot of it's internal, right? We have some wonderful staff developers. Beth Finkelstein, staff developer in mathematics, so she kind of coordinates it in that world. And Kate Alex has been, helping also. I know she's on leave, but she's been working behind the scenes with Maria Thompson to make sure we adjust, our workshop model and teachers college approach at the elementary school. So I know when I answer a question, there's a lot said.
That's all right, thank you. I just didn't know if it was something that was coming from outside. Or
No, the state
based
doesn't
on
really
what we've
help us
been
with those
seeing.
things. They just tell us what we need to do in the future and then says, the timeline to do it. But COVID did adjust a lot of those timelines. It did. It kind of shifted things over maybe a year or so. But they still, they didn't really help us that much in terms of pacing, let's put it that way.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
One of the things we've talked about is the need for an academic dashboard. So when you look at things like science and social studies, how do we know over the course of the year how 3rd graders at Hutch are doing versus 3rd graders at Colonial in science, social studies, math?
And that's hard because if you're going to quantify it by an exam, That's one way of looking at it, right? Or is it more experiential in that sense, right? And that's a lot of it is through, one piece of data that we're looking to integrate differently that we haven't done in the past is our classroom teacher observation reports are paper, right? And we've been sort of reluctant to go to the online system where you can actually then, do searches and find the different consistencies. So this year, we've been looking at the frontline system, which we currently have, which is the old Oasis model, and integrating that as a piece so that we can actually, try to answer some of those questions so that as administrators, we can go to each school and see how a subject area is being taught and what's being observed and what's being documented. And that's just a small piece to it, but I know there's, another discussion about okay, what are there other ways? Like, how do we know, right? And I know we have universal screeners. We're trying to make sure we can administer the Ames Web exams earlier, right? We want to make sure we do that, by the beginning of October, so we have some data collected, right? Some baseline, and then we can kind of take a look at then what was, how kids were doing last year at the end of last year.
Right.
But that's a discussion of okay, well, where do we house this, right? This is a good, piece that we have to kind of take apart and understand what's out there and what we can bring in, right? But I think that's something we should definitely be looking at.
Okay.
Michael, you had something, right?
I was curious because you mentioned Greek mythology is like the backbone for ninth grade, you said?
Well, there's Greek mythology has been like the part of the ninth grade curriculum, right? So they're looking at also other types of mythologies in different areas and cultures of the world.
And so that's like for English class?
Yes,
or?
English class,
See.
language
Okay, so
arts.
they're adding more mythologies from around the world.
Correct. Because, what's surprising or not surprising is that a lot of it overlaps. So
that's
it's
like
good to see.
Joseph Campbell and Hero with a Thousand Faces.
Correct.
And you said you're changing the American history curriculum to use more primary sources?
Well, it's adjusting it, right? Because we've been using this group to help us look at making sure that it's more authentic, that it's more personalized in a sense, but it's more firsthand knowledge and not just, maybe just books, which we have out there. So primary source materials, right? So that's the Facing History and Ourselves curriculum.
So that's part of a published curriculum?
Yes.
Or?
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a secret type of thing that's coming out of nowhere, right? Okay. It is part of, again, we follow, everything we do is following the New York State curriculum and its standards. So it's not something that's out of left field.
No, I just thought maybe people were selecting, I don't know, when you say primary sources, like different writings from different, I don't know, founding fathers or people of different socioeconomic
Correct.
classes.
All different perspectives.
Even the
right?
British perspective, maybe we'd hear. So, okay.
It's funny. A friend of mine was talking about, and I don't want to digress, but we love talking about history because I was a history major. But the history in this part of town during the American Revolution is much more rich than I think we even really understand, especially the battles and the British invading and trying to push them back. I don't want to get into too wonky about it, but there is so much more going on in Pelham per se that we really should kind of tap into.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So 4.4 is Assistant Superintendent's update on the whole child. Ms. Chung.
Good evening. Dr. Champ has already reported on some of the things that I was going to mention tonight, so I'll just add on to that. From the counseling office, I know our counselors have been really diligently working. This time of the year, the first couple of weeks is really challenging because we have a lot of student requests for changing their schedules, so they've been kind of working on that. We also started the college visits this week, so we have 6 colleges coming. The senior college night has been planned for September 23rd, next Thursday. So hopefully everyone will attend. It's at 7 o'clock. The guest speaker is coming from Barnard College. Next Thursday, we also have the SEPTA Welcome Back meeting, and they decided to just go ahead and do this virtually. So if you go to the SEPTA website, they'll have the Zoom link that they will use for the meeting. in terms of the COVID coordinator, once again, thank you very much for approving that. I really appreciate having help, and Bridget has been awesome. After the email went out to the community, she texted me, I think just before 5 o'clock, and said that she's already received about 200 emails from parents with the vaccination information. So I think that's going to be really great. So she's going to be the keeper. So we want to make sure that we're confidential. We're limiting, people that have access to it. So she's going to be the keeper of all of the information that's coming in by the parents. And so that'll make it so much easier for us to figure out and probably minimize the number of people that we may have to potentially quarantine. So I think that's really exciting news. So thank you again.
And Julie, can I just add on to that? I know with people who are vaccinated and who are not symptomatic don't have to quarantine, but for contact tracing purposes, we do still have to submit them to DOH for monitoring. Is that correct?
Yes, Department of Health just sent guidance that they really want us to make sure to include anyone who would be considered a close contact. For kids, it will be within 3 feet. For adults, it's within 6 feet. And the reason why they want us to go ahead and continue to add their names, or actually this is something new, we didn't do this before, but they want us to add all of the vaccinated individuals as well, because they want to keep tabs on the folks who are vaccinated, because they are seeing a lot of breakthrough cases, and they want to make sure that they're monitoring their health. So thank you.
Thank you. So 4.5 is Assistant Superintendent's update on finance and facilities. Mr. Ricky.
Good evening. Chris, I hope I'm doing okay talking close to the mic here. I got some tutoring from Chris before the meeting to speak into the mic. With me this evening is John Condon, our Director of Facilities. And before we get to the facilities portion, I'll just speak quickly to the other part of items that are covered under the Office of the Assistant Superintendent for Business. It's beginning of the school year, and for a school district that doesn't do transportation, we still have a lot of buses and a lot of students we have to move every year. For the beginning of the school year, transportation is always, I think the technical term is clunky, and this year is no exception. Certainly this year is extra difficult. Certainly you've probably heard quite a bit about the driver shortage that's occurring nationally. I think last night in East Ramapo we heard they had 27 driver shortages, and this morning I believe the Massachusetts governor is calling up the National Guard for soldiers to drive student buses. So that is the major driver of some of our difficulties. We are trying to address our routes because we are extending routes because we don't have enough drivers. It is an inconvenience. We know that. We know every day we get a little bit better, or some will say we get a little bit less worse every day. We work in a consortium with BOCES, and we are partner districts with Bronxville, Eastchester, and Tuckahoe. So we're working collaboratively, and certainly we are working to try to make sure we provide good services to our resident students who go to school outside of the district, where we're required to provide transportation, as well as to our one in-district bus. So again, beginning of school year, transportation, and certainly we are working diligently on that. Food services had a nice start to the beginning of our year with Whitson's. Whitson's is our food service provider. They're a family-owned business, or until last week we were notified that they're working with a larger company now, but we don't expect to see any difference in service as they operate as a corporation, and our contractual obligations and relationship remains the same. We'll be working closely with them, and this is a relationship that we renew every year, and the board has the ability to renew every year. So we're certainly working with them. And our regular food services director decided to retire about a week before school started. Whitson's was able to provide somebody for us, which is terrific. That's why we have an outside food service provider, so that we don't have to, as a district, go on a civil service list and look for somebody a week before school starts. And they've identified a permanent replacement, and that person's expected to be starting shortly. So we don't expect to see, everything should be seamless and transparent to the end user. But again, just to give you an idea of where we are working with that. We are doing certainly a certain amount of hiring for the beginning of the school year. Our beginning of the school year looked nothing like Dr. Garcia's side of the shop this year. But in our office, we handle all of the civil service hiring, so certainly with our COVID coordinator, we worked with Julia's office to make sure we were able to hire somebody for COVID coordinator. One position we are looking to fill is we had a retirement as secretary at Colonial, as we know, a long-term retiree. There was no civil service list in effect at the beginning of the summer. That list was provided by the county, 90 some odd lists. We've worked our way through that list. We're down to about 5 people on that list right now. There's a supplemental list what the county gave us with another 91 names on that list today. Those letters went out today. And of course, we're working on a timeline, a prescribed timeline with civil service. If we don't make an appointment by October 15th, then we need to start that process again. So it's a tiring process. We're working through it. We're fortunate enough that we have a good relationship with civil service. But again, that's just part of how we have to go through that process. If you look at the agenda this evening, you'll see some familiar names. If some part-time availability, the person we spoke about who retired at Colonial has made herself available for part-time availability to help the eventual person who's hired to train them up. And Ralph DeMasi, who we all know, has expressed an interest to be able to come back on a limited part-time availability, and we've placed that on the agenda for this evening. We don't expect to see him back immediately, but when he's available, when we still have a need for monitors and safety monitors, we are certainly excited to hear from Ralph, and you'll see his name on the agenda this evening too. So certainly not in the same capacity that he was here before, but definitely in the capacity to help our district and to help our students. Let's see, where else are we today? Let's talk a little bit about our facilities update. If I can, I'm going to do kind of the weatherman. I'm going to walk to the weather wall and this is where the cordless mic would have been nice, but please don't entertain me with the cordless mic, Chris. And again, with me is John Condon, our Director of Facilities. Really talk a little bit about our facilities update, what we've been doing over the last summer, and then just touched on a little work that we did this spring. It's all pictures. Some of the work, or most of this work, the board has already seen. It's great to have an opportunity to share this information. The first slide you see here is on Glover Field. This summer, we did our regular maintenance at Glover, which included a deep cleaning of all of the 3 turf fields, including our new one. We also added 20,000 pounds of crumb rubber because people wanted to bring it home and leave it in their cars and in their living room. But again, it certainly makes that field much more playable. All the fibers are standing up. Friendship Field was addressed, as well as Glover Field and the new field. So this is part of the regular maintenance. We also had some repairs made on the field, and we're really in good shape there. So we take really good care of those fields. We know they get a ton of use from the community, which is terrific, and we're making sure we're taking care of them. Anybody who drives through the center of town will see all the scaffolding in front of the high school. This has to do with a larger pointing project that was identified after some original pointing was done last year. In the original scope of this work, it was scheduled to be completed right around now. As I looked further into it, and again, the reason for this was some of those stone pieces in front of the school had shifted, and they clearly needed to be replaced. As they took the tedious process of taking it apart, what they also found was some of the steel behind those stones had deteriorated, so some of that steel now has to be fixed. That'll be a change order. That'll be brought before the board. Our construction manager and architect and vendor are still working on that pricing. So that'll be replaced, and what we'll also be replacing are some of those decorative stones, which will be recast, and it's really recast and made to look the same as it was when it was taken down. And actually this week, Russ Davidson and myself had a phone conversation or a video call with representative from the Historic Preservation Society of the town and shared the work that we're going to be doing here, and they had some great input, and I think we were able to share some great information with them as well. Not exciting for you, exciting for us. We replaced the fire panel at the high school. Again, one of those life safety things that's very important, and it's nice that we can turn it off too. Sometimes with the old one, it got a little quirky and it didn't always want to turn off. So we're excited about that. But again, very important things for our life safety equipment district-wide. Here's a little bit of the work that's been happening with our construction work. John, if you want to, I want John to come up a little bit closer to me too, but this is our orchestra room that we have going on right now, John.
This is the former art rooms in the middle school. Beg your pardon. This is the former art rooms in the middle school art rooms. The wall was taken down in between. New ventilation system, air conditioners put in, new lighting, painting. We're waiting on the floor. We have all the floors except the colors of the floor, which are back-ordered due to COVID. So they should be coming in imminently. And basically all we have left is the flooring and cabinetry, which of course is always slow. They blame it on COVID, but cabinetry is always slow. So that hopes to be finished up shortly.
Thank you. Some of the other work that was completed this summer. So for the folks who are in the building, we know science research has always worked in a very congested and tight room or space. I wouldn't even call it a room. Well, now they've got their own dedicated space, so that's really terrific news. The furniture isn't the final furniture. There's new furniture that'll be delivered as well as casework. Certainly, we're very excited about that work, and this was part of the bond. In addition to that, physics has got a home. If you look at the picture on the right, there's kind of a browned out area on the right-hand side. That's kind of a patch right now. There's going to be shelving and some casework in there as well as furniture. So again, work that needs to continue, but at the same time, these spaces are usable and are in use right now. So there were 2 art rooms that have been created as part of the capital work, and those are the spaces that were previously occupied by pupil personnel services, as well as our staff development area, where Drs. Callahan and Thompson worked out of. The rooms you have here, this is one of our 2 rooms here. This is we're waiting on casework and we're waiting on some furniture. Obviously, you see all the supplies in there, and it tightens it up quite a bit. But they're able to use those areas. Here's the second art room as well. In between those 2 rooms, there's going to be a movable wall, which has not yet been delivered. In the interim, we've asked the contractor to develop a solid wall. So there's a hard barrier between those 2 rooms at this time. At the middle school, we did quite a bit of pointing this summer, and really that's really been great about keeping the water and the water infiltration out of the school. The original scope of work was completed in the earlier part of the summer. At that time, we also knew that there was additional work and attention that needed to be had on the building. We believe that the contractor that we had from our construction manager had very fair pricing. They were mobilized, and they were able to do additional work at that point in time. And certainly we've shared that with the board already. So that's why you still see some of that equipment around. And if you look at the top, you'll see some blue at the top. Those are some stones, cast stones, and we're waiting for replacement for those stones to make that, again, watertight. And we've got the tarp there in the meantime to make sure we don't get that water infiltration. So there were also 2 art rooms in the middle school that were renovated this summer. Through a really great collaborative effort with our district staff and our district teachers and our middle school principal. What we were able to do was take 2 classrooms and turn them into middle school art. A couple of things that I think are really important to talk about this. We've got some really good vendors who love to sell us furniture. I think the original bill came in at about $120,000. Which we didn't execute. After looking at that, spoke to Mr. Condon, we talked to the teachers. Most of this furniture in this picture has either been custom made by our carpenter on the left-hand side, so we have the vertical and the horizontal storage racks. And then also throughout this room, we were able to access other equipment through other rooms and repurpose it in this area. The ceiling, we were able to salvage the ceiling tiles which were in their previous rooms and use them here too, which was really terrific. So we know we still have some more work. We know we're going to have to buy some furniture, but the most of this work was really done very well by our folks internally. And again, working with the art teachers, we've certainly made the commitment to them to make sure they have everything they need. And then as they readjust through the year, we're gonna follow through on that if they have any additional needs. This is the second room that was completed by them. We did the floors. You see the ceiling the same way. The lights were new to that building, but not new to the district. We took them from the old Hutchinson School, repurposed them into this building, so that's really terrific. LED lights. The counters on the right were repurposed, and at the front end, there's a demonstration station, which was a custom-made cabinet for this purposes with 2 stock sinks in there, too, for our art room, as well as you see the video display on the right-hand side for our teacher. Again, not really exciting stuff for everybody. It's kind of back of the house, but this is part of the work for our Prospect Hill, natural gas lines and infrastructure for our addition. And this is a little bit more of our addition. As you look at the picture on the left, it's the addition as you look at it while you're standing at the front door of Prospect Hill. And really that front area there will be a new security vestibule for visitors. And then further back, there's an elevator, and the second floor will also have a larger conference area. The picture on the right is kind of looking at the side of the building from if you're standing to the right of the building and looking left at the side of it. And in that center section, it's difficult to see in this particular picture, but you see the vertical shaft for the elevator. So to make that building fully ADA accessible, the nurse's office will also be, and the nurse's area will also be here too, which is great because currently the nurse's office is on the second floor of this building. So it's, I think it will be in a really good spot when it's all said and done. Timeline for this is really looking probably at spring of 2022. We had 5 bathrooms that were renovated at Prospect Hill this summer. Their work is still continuing. The bathrooms are functional. The dividers you see here are temporary. The final ones that were ordered are like a fiberglass. Again, supply chain issues, but we made sure that we have proper dividers and proper stalls so that we can open up the bathrooms. We also have temporary sinks, which were supposed to arrive today and be installed on Thursday, so we're keeping our fingers crossed there. But we did have temporary sinks in the meantime with this particular work. Again, this was a fully renovated job. Drains on the floor, which the facilities people love because that certainly helps with efficiencies in cleaning. And again, they're really going to look beautiful. Got a lot of pictures of the new Hutchinson School. It's easy to take a lot of pictures of the new Hutchinson School, and obviously this is the front of the school as you look at it with our bus circle. The picture on the left is as you walk through the front door and look straight ahead. The picture on the right is as you walk through the front door and look to the left, to the vestibule area. This is a similar look from the second floor, looking down at the vestibule and the commons area. We just like seeing nice shiny hallways. It's really exciting for facilities people. Again, it's a beautiful school, very bright, a lot of energy, and I think you see that in looking at this school. It's just beautiful. I don't know how we did that with the rotation on the deck change, but I think it's really neat. What's also really neat is this is the gymnasium, as you can see. It's the same size floor as the one we're standing on right now. We've got some work still. We've got to put the pads on the walls, the divider, the scoreboard, the stands, but all the painting is done, and as you can see, it's got one long basketball court, and then you can do 2 shorter ones, and there's a divider that'll go in between there. So really great stuff. On the right-hand side, you can see the skylights, so we get a lot of natural light in that building, which is terrific. This is our cafeteria at the Hutchinson School. Again, beautiful room, lots of light. On the right-hand side, you see the stage area, which is still in the process of being completed. Our work people were unhappy when they showed up at 7 o'clock in the morning on Monday that they couldn't work there. We said, it's great to have you here. Come back at 3 o'clock this afternoon. All the work happens when school is out. So that's the timeline of how that work's being completed right now. But again, just a really beautiful area. Some of the less glamorous things, again, if you look at Colonial School, we had really a dilapidated fence in between the house at 314 and the playground area. We've dressed that up a little bit. We've added some privacy fencing, which helps with our safety and security. If you recall before, we had some privet hedges there, which were really not in great shape. This is a very clean look. Certainly it is, you can see through it, but it just takes some adjusting to look through it, and gives it a really nice look. This is the completion of the business office. Again, that was done by our folks in-house. We moved in late March. We started moving in late March, and we're fully functional out of that facility right now. Additional work, you didn't see any pictures of Siwanoy. It was not avoided. We did some work on the upgrade to building controls, painted a lot of classrooms, normal cleaning and waxing. So when we do that, we pull everything out of the classroom. We clean those desks and all of those things that get pulled out of the classroom. We clean the floors, we dust it, and then we move everything back in and put the classrooms back together. Old Hutchinson School, Dr. Champ said it, we used our summer workers and our full-time staff to clear out most of it. If you drive by too and you look at the old area where the playground used to be, you'll see a tractor trailer, or a trailer of a tractor trailer. Right now that's filled up with most of the furniture that came out of that building. When we did that, we held on to that furniture. We wanted to make sure we had all the new furniture before we disposed of that. And at the same time, we've made that furniture available to other schools in the district, picking the bones, if you will. Everybody's kind of had an opportunity to do that. And especially at the beginning of the school year, some schools that started out with tables wanted desks for the elementary schools, and we were really able to accommodate that. So that's really great. We're able to do that. And later on this fall, we'll come to you with a plan to dispose of those, or a request to dispose of that, and we'll end up putting it out for auction like we do normally. Brings up another really good topic, really well displayed topic of throwing out desks or chairs that happened at Siwanoy. That's not our usual process of disposing of chairs. I think we had people that were really eager to go ahead and open the school, and we had some chairs that should be disposed of the right way. They had some mold on them. They came out of a moldy closet. I think it was well-intended people, certainly looking to do the right thing. People have been reminded that's not how we dispose of our surplus materials. What we do is we, pretty much at every board meeting, it's funny, this isn't one of them, where there's a request to surplus materials, and then we use a public platform, Auctions International. I know I've spoken about it before, which is a public auction site to dispose of our surplus and obsolete equipment. So when the time comes, we'll ask permission for the board to do that. Again, I agree. The work at the high school at Hutchinson is amazing. It's beautiful. Everything is really great. We know we still have a lot of work to do. But we know that our students and staff and community can really, really take advantage of these great spaces, and we're excited about that. Our summer students are terrific. I had a really great opportunity with Principal Berkowitz of the high school. We interviewed some of our students to kind of get an understanding of what they thought about their experience working in the high school. And they were tired. They formed great relationships with our custodial staff, and a really terrific understanding of the work that they do every day. You know, you put a pedometer on one of our custodians, they do about 40,000 steps a day. So they're moving every day. And the feedback we get from our parents certainly is that they love the fact that their children are working as our custodians, because they go home and they fall asleep every night. They're exhausted. But we really benefit from their help, and I think they really benefit too from having the experience of working and getting to better know their district. And they really have a feeling of pride in working in the district and work that they've done. And that's something that's really great. So it's a great opportunity to create that really good early work experience. Have a couple other things written down. So there is more work that has to be done as far as the capital project work goes. To quote the movie Money Pit, 2 weeks. Right? Everything will be done in 2 weeks, and it won't be done in 2 weeks. But we're certainly going to be keeping on it, and that's kind of an inside joke on our part, really, just because we know, you hear things from your vendors and from your contractors. Certainly, certain supplies which we had an expectation of having when we opened the school weren't here, and then you have to adjust and pivot and make sure we can do the best we can. And I think the facilities department did that. The Prospect, John, thank you. He gave me a note here. Prospect field work, the permitting has been approved.
Oh, great.
Still waiting on the health department.
From Suez, we're waiting on the health department. Thank you, John. But we expect that work to be started shortly. When it does begin, though, we do not expect it to have an impact on the final start date of when that field would be back in service, the original date of when we'd be able to have access to that field for regular service. On top of that, just things to talk about. I mean, we've got a staff of about 29 people. We were working about 5 down all summer between injuries, vacancies, people taking other jobs. So the people really stepped it up. Our student workers stepped it up. They did a great job. That includes, our summer staff. They're entitled to vacations too, and we ask them to take that time over the summer because during the school year it has an impact on the school year. So again, there's a lot of working together with this. Certainly, this building right here was mostly occupied pretty much through the early part of August. And they really did a great job turning that building around, and the school community is really good to them too, and I know they appreciate that work. So just want to take an opportunity to say that. And I know the board's already heard this before, but it's recorded and I get a chance to say it again, so I appreciate you hearing it again.
Can I just ask, and it may be included in, I don't know if John was going to add, any update on the central offices, district offices, and the project in the basement of the high school?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Champ. So we received notification from the state recently that they've approved the district offices move to the Sanborn App building. We anticipate, again, the signing of that lease will happen this week. I know that's something the board already has approved, so we're able to do that. The plan is to have that occupancy for November the 1st. So I know they've started on some of the work, and now they really have to kick it up a notch, if you will. Let's see, the demolition of Old Hutch is going to be moving along too. The utilities are being shut off and terminated there, so you should see a little bit more action there. Actually, maybe not, because the initial work is really all interior, where you see that just a lot of that stuff gets taken out of the interior. And then with the final exterior demolition happening in the late fall time frame is kind of what we're hearing about. And what else, Jim? Or Dr. Champ?
I had one more thing. It's maybe not a question, but just for the board's information. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I know, Jim, you have been in touch with Steve Mady as well, related to Pelham Children's Center.
Yes.
We've been working with them to try to get things up and running. My understanding right now, there's a little bit of a holdup, not on our part, but on it's the Office of Family and Children's Services that
Yes.
needs to approve their the site plan for them to run their program. And my understanding is because we're still on a temporary certificate of occupancy, that the Office of Family and Children's Services won't approve them until we get our permanent. Is that correct?
That says exactly how it's been explained to me. They're guided by OFCS or OCFS. We're under the guidance of New York State Education Department. We're certainly within all of our guidelines to operate with our temporary certificate of occupancy, and we anticipate to have a full certificate shortly. That's exactly where we're working with PCC, and that's where their delay and licensure delay seems to be coming from.
Yeah, and I just wanted to raise that to the board because I know that a lot of parents were counting on that and are frustrated right now. So we've done everything we can do at the moment. We've even reached out to Senator Biaggi's office to see if she can maybe help intervene, because it seems a little silly that we can have students in school all day, but they won't approve the program to have them in school before and after. But it's because it's overseen by a different agency. So if I remember correctly as well, our temporary certificate of occupancy is a 30-day.
That's correct.
And then we should be positioned to receive our permanent.
We're working with our fire inspector. We've had him out. And really, this is to John Condon's credit. Very early on this summer, we brought our fire inspector out early to identify what we were going to need to open up the Hutchinson School. And I'm sorry.
Yeah, just what's left to be done to get the permanent CO?
You have that, John? You got to talk to Mike.
Most of it's just reporting paperwork. We were waiting on a contractor to give us the inspection reports for the fire hydrant, for the electrical inspection, which all was delivered early this week. We're waiting on one fence being installed on Thursday, and the stage steps.
What about center
This-
staircase?
The
Ma'am?
stage?
Center staircase as well?
No, ma'am, that's fine the way it is, actually, but that, again,
Doesn't look
every, everything's happening Thursday, so I'm told. We'll see.
The stage that's incomplete?
No, sir.
Is that part of the C of O?
Yes, sir.
So all of the fire control systems have been tested. We've had everybody out there. All the life safety systems are all in order. Fire department's been out there. And again, through the entire process, we've had a great relationship with our public safety partners in town. They've had an opportunity to walk through the building, and we've certainly shared with them whenever they want to walk through that building, they can.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify, what we're talking about being held up is the morning and after-school program at Hutchinson only
Yes.
right now.
Yes.
Jim, I was happy to see that we sustained really no damage to any of the turf fields from the storm, which was incredible with the amount of water that those fields took.
I agree, and thank you. We didn't talk about this, but I'll use this as an opportunity to really pat all of us on the back. You may remember we have a backflow preventer at the river that prevents the river from backing up and getting back into the drainage system, and which could eventually lift the carpet, which really would take that field out of service. What we didn't have in the original design was a backflow preventer from the street side or from the land side of that drainage pipe. And what we did as part of the work was the district added 2 additional backflow preventers to the drainage system to prevent any type of water infiltrating from any runoff that may come from the land side, and that could have also backed up into the system. And the storm that we faced last week is certainly one of those storms where just about every drainage pipe was full, and we know there was also water flowing over the field, but everything held in place. We had one small area on field A, I believe, on the third base area. We have a small sinkhole. We believe there's actually a manhole under there, and that's probably where the water actually came up and washed out and dropped some of the debris. We're working with the supplier or the vendor to repair that. As you'd imagine, they're very busy right now, but we really made out very, very well, certainly at Glover. And district-wide, we did very well. I mean, we have some usual areas where we take on water. They were very consistent in being wet. Colonial, the water line outside the door is just tremendous. Certainly I think people saw the video of how high they were, but we didn't have the instances that had happened in the past where the sewage backs up. We have that knife switch that prevents that from happening, but just the sheer amount of water. And our custodial staff did a great job trying to keep, some water did get in there, of course, but they did a great job moving that water out. I think one floor we had a bubble, and we've addressed that at Colonial, right? And some gym equipment. But really, as a district, and I think we all know from reading the paper, we fared very, very well, and all the buildings held up nicely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
So this brings us to the shortest financial reports and motions section that I've seen in a while. I'm actually going to take a consent of 5.1 to 5.5. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Vinny.
Second.
Thanks, Sue. So I think we've touched on almost all of these. 5.1 is a motion to approve varsity girls ice hockey merger. A number of the teams are merging together for the season. We've got the agreement for the COVID testing to authorize Dr. Champ when that agreement comes through, and a number of other agreements with the team bonding with the ninth graders, and 2 contracts with transportation. Anything to add, Jim?
If I could just touch on one item. As you look at the contract for summer transportation, it should read 2021. I believe it says 2020 in the resolution. In the backup documentation, as you see, it's 2021.
So it's extending the existing contract through next summer.
It was actually
I'm sorry,
for this past summer.
Thank you.
Thank you, yeah.
Okay.
We worked on it with the state. We filed the paperwork, they sent it back, and this is the timing where we are with this. Usually, we certainly want to bring this back to you before the summer's over, obviously.
Very
Sorry,
good.
I just wanted to clarify the COVID testing is coming to us cost-free. So we need to
Correct.
enter into a contract, but there's no cost involved with it.
Thank you for that. Yes, we did, I think Stephanie did, as she drafted this, did put in a, actually, no, originally there was an up to amount, but I stand corrected on that. Yes, this is a partnership with the Department of Health, so they've received a grant to pay for the services, so it is free to the schools. Yep.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Section 6 is superintendent's personnel recommendations. I'm also going to take a consent of 6.1 to 6.4. Do I have a motion? Thank you, John. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Benny. Jim, Steve, anything else?
No, thank you. I mentioned it earlier. We certainly have 2 people coming back, and thank you to our monitors, too.
Steve?
Yeah, just section B is our extra duty appointments, which is contractually listed in the teacher's contract. And every year we appoint these people to serve in different capacities and roles. Some are leadership. A lot of them are clubs and activities. But there are a lot of them. Let's put it that way.
And I see that we found the leave replacement for the high school social worker.
Yes,
And
so we
the,
completed, yes, schools.
The psychologist at Colonial.
Yes, Colonial School Psychologist and high school social worker. They're a little delayed in their start, but that's okay.
That's right.
And these were already anticipated in the approved budget, right?
Yes, this is all part of the budget, right? This is, each, if you look in the teacher's contract, they have all the different, clubs and activities that's
Steve.
listed. Sure. All these are listed in the back of the teachers union contract. So there are times which, they're listed, we don't necessarily have to fill them, but, these are the ones that we do fill.
Any other questions or comments?
I wondered, on 6.4, item 1, appointment of school monitor, is that the COVID coordinator, or is that?
Number 1 is.
That's correct.
Yeah, number 1 is the COVID coordinator.
So her official title is school monitor, or?
Yeah, through civil service procedures, and Jim can speak to that.
Right, so the monitor does work under the direction of, and then that's with Dr. Champ and Julia Chung. But as a coordinator and student monitor, we're able to work through civil service that way.
Any other questions or comments?
I just noticed that one of our Pelham parents is going to be joining us at Prospect, and it's very
Yes.
exciting. She comes with a great background as an assistant principal. She's done some work through PTA, so it's exciting. Welcome, Jess, to the district. Thank you.
Agreed. Anything else? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Section 7 is Pupil Personnel Services. We have a Schedule D. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Sue. A second?
Second.
Thank you, John. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Section 8 is new business. Do we have any new business? Okay, so section 9.
I would
are-
like to.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's something new business for right now, but I would like to at some point hear. Sure, sorry. I would like to hear at some point more about the athletic program, since it's been kind of an issue recently. So I don't know if that's for tonight, but maybe in the future we could discuss that more. And
Sure.
I'd like to hear how it aligns with the strategic plan.
Sure, I'll be happy to talk to Mr. Hodge and see if we can do that in a follow-up meeting.
Sure.
thank you. Anything else? Steve, did you think it's a new business? Your eyes lit up like,
Just, I'm wide awake. I had a double espresso before.
It just kicked in
Yeah.
at the end of the meeting.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, section 9 is communications and comments from the public. Okay. Section 10. Is that you, Leah?
Madam President, would you entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Do I have a second? Second. Thanks, John. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.